Touch the wrong wall, and you might disappear into a world with no way back. Endless yellow corridors, thousands of rooms that all look the same, objects that seem familiar, but something about them is deeply, horribly wrong. Today's story follows one ordinary man who steps into this world out of curiosity. After that, there is no going back for him. This story gets darker than you think. Subscribe now before we begin. The story begins in 1990. A secret research organization called Async sends a researcher named Naren into a mysterious place known as the backrooms. Naren records everything on camera as he moves forward. Yellow walls surround him. Yellow floors stretch endlessly. Room after room looks exactly the same. At one point, he finds some cables. Following them, he reaches a room filled with recording equipment. Nervous, he blocks the door with boxes. Then, he uses a radio to contact headquarters. He explains that he has lost his team and something else is here with him. He needs rescue. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise. He turns and sees a bird crash into the wall. Naren keeps moving forward. He finds more strange objects, many of them unfinished or fused into the walls. Suddenly, he hears a door open behind him. He turns around, and a horrifying creature is coming straight for him. Naren runs. He enters a room decorated like an island, but the door won't open. The creature catches him. Back in the lab, the Async scientists only watch the footage. They never learn what really happened to Naren. Weeks later, therapist Mary watches her childhood home being torn down. The handprints on the sidewalk remind her of the day she made them with her mother. Honestly, small details like that can carry more weight than people expect. Meanwhile, Clark starts his day at his furniture store, but business isn't going well. After work, he attends a therapy session with Mary. He wonders if he even deserves to be alone. To help him open up, Mary roleplays as his ex-wife, the same woman who kicked him out after another argument about his drinking. Clark explains that his wife grew frustrated because he was always at the store. Meanwhile, he grew resentful because he had to pay for everything while she took time off from college. When Mary brings up his failed career as an architect, Clark suddenly snaps and yells at her. Mary ends the exercise calmly. She tells him his reaction is normal. This test simply helps him identify his own feelings. Later, Clark dresses as a pirate to film a commercial for his store. Unfortunately, the chair he sits on breaks and he falls. That afternoon, Clark brings in an electrician to check on ongoing power issues. The lights have flickered for months and the bills stay unusually high. In the basement, they find 3 strange red switches Clark swears were never there before. They press them, but nothing happens. That night, Mary watches TV and has to sit through an ad for her own therapy tapes. She keeps glancing at the cement handprint she took from her old home. At the same time, Clark drinks alone in the store, watching TV, since this is where he's lived ever since his wife kicked him out. Suddenly, the TV shuts off on its own. Then, the store lights turn on by themselves, flicker for a few seconds, and go dark again. What is actually causing these strange events? Clark has no idea yet just how much his life is about to change. The next night, Clark watches TV again. Suddenly, the screen glitches, showing the back rooms for a split second before shutting off. Frustrated, Clark hits the TV, then notices the basement lights turning on. He rushes downstairs and shuts off every switch. Nothing happens until he presses the mysterious red switches, which kill the power to the entire building. Pressing them again doesn't bring it back. Before leaving the basement, Clark notices a glowing line on the wall. It disappears as he approaches. When he touches the wall, his entire body passes through it, and he collapses onto a yellow floor. Confused, Clark now stands inside the back rooms, staring at a pile of furniture. He touches the wall again and returns to the basement. Curious, he crosses back into the back rooms. He touches the furniture and realizes something disturbing. These are pieces from his own store. Clark keeps exploring empty room after empty room. He finds a stop sign written in mirrored letters. To avoid it, he takes a different hallway and notices the same bird from earlier, now dead on the floor. As he continues, Clark finds a pile of chairs. Then he hears a strange voice speaking many languages at once. Following the sound, he discovers it's coming from a cardboard cutout with a recorder attached. He traces the cables to a locked door. On his way out, he notices a loose wall panel and pulls it open. Inside, he finds a bag containing tapes, discs, and Naren's ID card. There's also a tunnel here, so Clark crawls through it and reaches a room where objects are slowly sinking into the floor. He finds a small door with 3 knobs. After some effort, he opens it and makes his way back to the pile of furniture. This time, though, he can't find the exit wall. Panic sets in. Finally, after a lot of testing, he manages to cross back through. He returns to the real world, carrying a stool with him as proof. At his next session, Clark tells Mary he hasn't had a drink in 3 days. He shares everything, even shows her a hand-drawn map of the backrooms. Mary doesn't believe him. She assumes it's a symptom of alcohol withdrawal. Angry, Clark takes the map back and swears he'll bring proof that no one can deny. Afterward, Clark visits his employees, Kat and Bobby. He offers to pay them for help with a project. The next day, he brings them to the basement and has Bobby film everything. He crosses the wall right in front of them and disappears. From the other side, his voice calls out for them to follow. Kat hesitates, worried it's dangerous. Bobby, though, gets curious, follows Clark, and gets so excited by what he sees that he convinces Kat to come too. The three of them explore together, and Bobby records everything. They find a dark tunnel, so Clark ties a rope to Bobby's waist and lowers him down. The tunnel narrows as he crawls forward. Bobby reaches a room filled with piles of laundry and a foul smell. In the next room, the lights flicker. Suddenly, a terrifying creature appears there. Bobby scrambles back up the tunnel, screaming for his friends to pull him up. He barely finishes describing what he saw before the rope suddenly yanks taut, pulling him back down. Kat grabs onto him, and Clark tries to untie the knot, but the pull is too strong. Bobby is dragged, screaming, into the darkness. Moments later, the rope yanks again, pulling Clark and Kat into the tunnel too. Through the camera, they watch in horror as Bobby disappears behind a hatch, leaving a trail of blood on the floor. Kat immediately runs toward the dark room to find Bobby. Clark hears her scream. Then the hatch opens again. Is the creature coming back for more? Sensing the creature returning, Clark escapes through a hole in the wall. Still holding the camera, he pushes through piles of trash and finds another opening that leads him into a new area. This one is white instead of yellow. Hearing noises behind him, he opens a door and ends up back in the yellow laundry room. He calls out for Kat as he walks, passing rooms filled with chairs, sinking couches, and a crutch. A hallway leads him to a room full of children's toys, then several empty rooms. Clark opens a door and rushes through, only to find a Christmas tree playing music, surrounded by mannequins sinking into the floor. Behind the tree sits a figure in a chair. Clark says hello. The figure turns on a lamp, revealing he's missing half his body. Then, a deformed woman appears and starts coming after him. Clark runs. Clark passes more Christmas decorations, ends up in a bathroom, slips on some water, and eventually reaches a pool area. Suddenly, he hears Kat's voice through the wall. He sets down the camera to try and help her. Something then grabs the camera from the ground. At this moment, we see a flashback of Mary's childhood. Her mother suffered from mental illness. The house was always dirty, and every window was covered with newspaper. One day, little Mary tried to open a window. Her mother caught her and scolded her, saying it wasn't safe to go outside. A door suddenly bursts open in the dream, and adult Mary wakes up. She stares at the cement handprint. Her phone rings. She lets it go to the answering machine. Clark's voice comes through, saying he's never coming back. Meanwhile, async researcher Phil sees Clark's old pirate commercial on TV and instantly recognizes him. Mary arrives at Clark's empty store. Envelopes are piled under the door, showing nobody has been there in days. She heads to the basement and finds the map Clark once showed her. Then she watches, stunned, as a fly disappears straight into the wall. After some hesitation, Mary touches the wall and gathers her courage to cross. Inside the back rooms, she doesn't find the furniture, only empty rooms and the same stop sign. Searching further, she finds items from her own childhood home scattered around. In another area, she finds a pile of chairs and a disturbing wall drawing of a monster killing people. Notes nearby suggest someone was trying to map this place out. Suddenly, she hears a noise and turns to see someone hiding in a passage. Clark steps out, tells Mary she's being too loud. Then he explains something unsettling. This place, he says, is every place that ever existed, all combined. Their conversation is interrupted by a noise and flickering lights. Clark tells her not to worry, it's just him. Then, without warning, he wraps his arm around her neck and starts choking her, apologizing as he does it, insisting it's for her own good. Mary wakes up tied to a chair in a strange dining room. 3 bizarre creatures surround her, and Clark sets the table nearby. This is a mess, he says, but kind of beautiful. He explains that everything here gets built from visitors' memories, and each rebuild becomes more distorted than the last. Clark believes these creatures are an improvement over real people, since they feel no pain. To prove it, he stabs one, revealing stuffing instead of flesh. He serves it on a plate, then opens the fridge to reveal Kat's severed head inside. Terrified, Mary begs Clark to let her go. He wants just one thing, for her to admit he was right. He recreates their old therapy exercise, cutting hair from one of the creatures to make Mary look look like his wife. He starts calm, apologizing for waking her up. Then he spirals into rage, insisting he has every right to drink in his own house since he paid for it, just like he paid for her college. Mary yells that she isn't his wife and shakes off the wig. She tells him the truth. His wife didn't leave because of the drinking or the overwork. She left because Clark never took responsibility for anything, always blaming someone else. Clark breaks down crying. He admits he doesn't want to change. He wants to stay here. Mary tells him he can stay, but only if he lets her go. Clark unties her and apologizes. At that exact moment, a monstrous figure emerges from the dark room. Captain Clark, the pirate from his old commercial. This creature is a manifestation of Clark's buried rage and failure. The real Clark tries to calm him down, insisting Mary is a friend and no threat, but Captain Clark grabs him instead, bites into his shoulder, and starts throwing him violently around the room. Mary uses the chaos to run, entering a room shaped like her old neighborhood. The exit door won't open. Then she sees Captain Clark dragging Clark's bleeding body across the floor. She hides inside a house. Mary races from room to room as the creature closes in. In a room full of couches, she has to jump across them to keep moving, but she slips and hurts her leg. Slower now, she reaches a corridor and hops toward a door that won't open. As the creature approaches, she crawls through a small doggy door and barely dodges its reaching hand. Looking around, Mary realizes she's standing at the edge of a massive open atrium, revealing the true scale of the backrooms. As the door behind her starts to break, she moves quickly but carefully, climbing stairs and pulling open a ceiling hatch that falls away into the darkness below. Through the gap, she reaches a room filled with familiar-looking store furniture. She climbs more stairs and realizes this is a flawed copy of the actual furniture store. She rushes toward the exit, but it's blocked. Mary grabs a coat rack and swings, breaking Captain Clark's wooden leg. Trying to escape, she accidentally bumps a cutout, triggering an alarm that fills the room with fog from fire extinguishers. She keeps running, but the fog turns out to be sleeping gas, and she collapses. Something jolts her awake. Terrified, she finds Captain Clark crawling on top of her. Mary blocks his face with one hand while pulling the cement handprint from her pocket with the other. She smashes it into his head again and again until it finally breaks. She crawls into a narrow passage the creature can't fit through. At the next door, async workers in hazmat suits knock her out with gas. Mary is dragged before a group of scientists and scanned. They show her something disturbing. The creature's body has been captured too. Behind another door, countless copies of the same cardboard cutouts sit in storage. Eventually, Phil sits down alone with Mary and asks her questions. She admits she found the backrooms through Clark's store, but refuses to say more, even after Phil shows her footage of Clark and the creature. Phil explains that Async originally built MRI machines before everything changed with the discovery of the backrooms. Now, mapping this world is their entire mission. Phil wants Mary to share everything she experienced, but she disconnects, refusing to keep listening. Different shots show various rooms inside the backrooms, one containing Mary's own therapy tapes, another covered in missing posters for Kat and Bobby. Finally, the truth comes out. Mary is still there, frozen in that chair, her body slowly mutating. This world doesn't just trap people, it learns from them. For more terrifying stories like this one, subscribe to the channel right now.